Hello, welcome. I apologize for delay. Had some technical difficulties, but we are here and we are going to learn how to write an awesome essay. So, thank you all for being here. We have some great panelists who are going to share a wealth of information. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves right now so we can go and get started. I will start with you, Dr. Kaplan, ladies first.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Thanks for the warm welcome. And thank you for everyone for being here tonight, wherever here is. I know that we live in a virtual world, at this moment. So, my name is Rebbecca. I'm the founder of Docent Admissions Consulting, based here in what is normally a sunny and warm Atlanta, Georgia. Um, I am thrilled to participate and so honored to participate alongside Tim and Shereem in tonight's presentation. I am thrilled about the college essay. I love it. And I have some really interesting ideas about how to get you on board to how to make it just an awesome experience and something really fruitful in that you create an essay that you're proud of for yourself. So happy to join you tonight.
And thank you, Rebecca and Tim, for allowing me to join. My name is Shereem Herndon-Brown. I'm the founder and chief education officer at Strategic Admissions Advice. It's an independent consulting company focusing on educational college counseling. Been doing that for the past 17, almost 18 years. I live in Washington, Metro Washington, D.C., Maryland, and used to work at Georgetown in undergraduate admissions, used to be a school counselor, have a master's in English. So I don't want to say I love the essay because I'm good at it, but I really need parents to understand their role in the essay writing process. I'm hoping that there are a lot of parents on the Zoom today because I want to make sure we're not even Zoom, StreamYard, because we want to make sure that as we go into essay writing season with your students, that you understand the boundaries that you should have, but also ways that you can be helpful. So thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to a spirited conversation.
So, what do we hope to accomplish this evening? I think the first thing we want to share what admission officers are looking for, and I'll get into that in a second. We want to help you brainstorm techniques, finding your voice, finding how are you going to approach this process, how to structure the essay in a clear and concise way, in which where you're articulating what you're sharing, but you're also engaging the reader. We want to write with impact using language and tone. And then we want to talk about revising. How do you go about editing, polishing in the process, and ultimately when you should let it go. And so we built in time for questions at the end. So as you go, as the presenters are presenting, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat, and we definitely want to leave time to address that. But we want to begin with kind of how you should approach this. Rebecca, I know we've had a lot of discussions as far as a lot of students say, I want to write this perfect essay. Every word has to be perfect. And there's a lot of pressure that they put on themselves. But how should they approach this process?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Tim. And I really love that you started with the slide that you did because it shows visually that this is an iterative process. So often we see a finished piece of writing and we don't often see the work that goes into it, the work, the thought, the revisions, the soul searching. And so I think the more that we can remind ourselves that this is a process that happens in phases over time and with the right mindset, that's a really great place to start. And Shereem, Tim, and we love the college essay. We like writing them. We like reading them. We like helping students developing them. In Shereem's, in my case, that does not necessarily mean that you love the college essay. So definitely don't go into this, feeling like I have to love the essay. I'm going to give you a few ways to maybe like shift your mindset to see that this is less of an obligation and more of an opportunity. So when I talk to students, again, in my former professional life as a college recruiter and admissions counselor, would advise students really just to, sorry, I've lost my train of thought. To really reframe this as being less of an obligation, right? And more of an opportunity to really just talk about yourself, present who you are, let the admissions committee know what you're all about. I was thinking about this earlier this week, and it's almost like if you can envision that the rest of the file is like an outline of who you are. Almost like if you can imagine a children's coloring book, there's this outline for who you are as a candidate. But then with the essay, you get to fill in the color about who you think you really are as an individual, as a young person applying to this school, and what kind of things that you're passionate about or lived experiences you've had. This is really where you get to give the context and, again, the color for the outline that has been sketched for you in the rest of the file. So I really do, if I can impart that message on, reframing this opportunity, it's to think about it as that. This is less of an obligation as part of the admissions process and more of an opportunity for you to paint a picture of who you are at this moment in your life. And that doesn't mean that life decades from now, it's life right now, you, the young person. I think what dovetails with that too, in helping to reframe or rethink about the essay, is to also find your sense of purpose in why you're writing it. Again, if you're thinking about this as an obligation and just something, a box that you have to check, it will be drudgery, of course. If you think about this a little bit more holistically, you'll hear that word a lot in the college admissions process. If you think about it more in terms of what it means for the rest of your life, that the essay is the gateway to this college experience and really to the next chapter of your life, then suddenly it can become really much more interesting and appealing, to even start that process. And really, as Tim said, taking this very daunting process that people tend to, seek perfection in, and really just portray yourself in the clearest light. So definitely rebrand as an opportunity, find your purpose. Why am I actually writing this essay? And figure out what that means to you and really own it. And then more practically speaking, time. Time is on your side when it is on your side.
In July and August.
July and August are phenomenal times to do this. You are out of school. Sure, some time may be a little less structured right now, but the more that you can put rubber to the road, impose some structure. In our family, we love the quote, eat the frog. Eat the frog first, because if you eat it the first thing in the day, then you don't have to eat it the rest of the day. Do the hard work on the front end while time is still on your side. You don't have other classwork to think about, and you can really invest yourself in figuring out your purpose and getting into the right mental space where you are just owning this opportunity to tell your story. I think a good attitude goes a long way. I may be old school in that, but I think it helps.
Yeah, so Shereem, she did a good job of kind of setting the table, approaching the process, starting early. So what are some of the nuts and bolts as you start to brainstorm, put pen to pad, fingers to keyboard? What are some of the things that need to be done?
Eat the frog, first of all. Eat the frog. Get it done. I'm a big believer in planning and being ahead of the game. I do co-sign with what Dr. Kaplan, Rebbecca has said, which is the essay is an opportunity that you will not enjoy in November or October with the November 1st deadline or November with the December 1st deadline. If you have this time now to brainstorm, there's 4 key pillars. Brainstorm, then write, get suggestions for revision, and then proofread. If you can tackle those 4 things, brainstorming, we're going to talk about in a second, and then writing, talk about suggestions for revision and proofreading, you'll be a happier human being. And parents, please, we'd love to hear where you're from. If you're a student or a parent, please drop it in the comments so we can address you properly. But this is a great time to really spend quality time with your child, speaking to parents now, regarding the essay. So, what's important to you is the first thing. When you think about brainstorming, you think about what do you hold near and dear. Some people call it values. I call what's important to you, whether it's family, whether it's athletics, whether it's arts, whether it's internship experiences, watching yourself evolve as a human being. What experience have brought you to this point? So again, you have this opportunity that Rebbecca said to share something that matters to you. And in that, what are we, or Tim, who is the Senior Associate Dean of Admission at Emory University, what can he learn about you by what's important to you, by your experiences? I think another key thing is talk about who you're becoming. I'm a big Michelle Obama fan who wrote a book about becoming, and we are never finished products. We're all changing, evolving, learning. But who are you becoming at your young life, 16, 17, 18 years old? Who are you becoming based upon what's important to you, based upon the experience that you brought to this point? And while that sounds like, oh my goodness, that's such a big, bold statement, does this essay have to be such a pivotal piece of my college application process? Only if you allow it to be by procrastinating or by not understanding that there are pieces to your application. There's the personal essay, there's the supplemental essays. Everything starts with the transcript. If a school includes standardized testing, there's recommendations. So the essay is an important piece. The personal essay is an important piece, but don't forfeit everything else thinking that one essay is the magic trick. How does this event fuel your life ambitions? I can tell you now, I won't give you the whole story, but I remember what I wrote my college essay about. And I remember that it was about someone who was very influential in my life and watching him be very vulnerable when his mother passed away when we were in high school. And the things that I learned from him in order to help me fuel my life ambitions. He had a quote on his yearbook page which said, "To be educated is to be blessed." I ended up putting it on my yearbook page, and I really kind of took that to heart as I went to college and grad school. So I think if you can brainstorm about what's important to you, the specific life experiences that have brought you to this point, who are you becoming, and how does this experience, that you just mentioned above, experience or event fuel your life ambitions, you'll start to think about what makes you unique. I like to say in front of audiences that like a snowflake, there's only one of you and one essay. Only you can write your essay. No one else has lived your exact same life experiences. So when kids say, "I don't know what to write," nothing bad happened in my life to write about. The essay is not about writing about something bad. It's about what's important to you, the experiences, who you're becoming. Documenting, don't create. Again, some people have an issue with that, and I say, look, if we try to think of something that colleges want, which I know Tim's going to talk about a little bit, you then start writing for someone else versus documenting something that happened in your life that is unique to you. Remember the snowflake analogy. So documenting, not creating, is always, always, always going to be something that people will appreciate on the other side because you're telling them, you're sharing something about your life. But it's that one thing. This is a slice of your life. Too many kids come into this and tell me, when they first write their essay, when I was 4 years old, I started playing piano. And then when I was 7 years old, I played in my first concert. When I was 12 years old, I made the high school band, even though I was in middle school. Too much. I don't need to go back 10, 15 years to learn about you. Something has happened in the last 4 years of your life that should be a significant slice that you'd like to share. So an autobiography is going to take you more than 650 words. 650 words is the max a college essay can be for the common application. So please be aware of the word count and be aware that most colleges, particularly selective universities such as Emory University, they have to get through a lot of applications. So they want the essay to be very strong and effective and well written, but they don't want it to be a novel. And you need to make sure that you remember that. So that is my pitch on brainstorming, and please include your name and whereabouts in the comments so we can address you correctly. But we're glad that you're here. I believe the next slide, Tim, is again. If I am the rebel here, right? Is that we're going to call me Shereem the Rebel, using AI as a thought partner? I like AI guy. I love the way artificial intelligence synergizes information together. And I think that it can play a role in the college admission process. There's some very ethical ways to use AI in this process. Tim, do you want to ask me the questions formally? Do you just want me to run them down?
Just go for it. Just go for it. You are the AI guy.
I see that getting branded. I sort of love that.
Did he freeze? I believe he froze.
Oh, no.
So, Rebbecca, if you could just, is AI cheating? Just in your time and working in mission office, is AI looked at as cheating?
Do you know, and I have to sort of go back and clarify that before I started my own venture, I split my time between the admissions office with Tim.
Go for it. All right. Is it easy to use AI?
Yeah. And I'll just wrap up really quickly. Hopefully we have Shereem. But in the classroom, AI and online translators of any sort were kind of frowned upon, although that's been a little while. So I'm interested to know Shereem's point of view if we get him back. Do you see students making use of it from your perspective, Tim?
So one of the things that we did last year as we prepare for the season, we had somebody, our director of marketing, he created a AI essay based upon one of our prompts. And then we had an essay from a similar prompt that was used the year before. And what we found was very, very clearly that, everybody could tell the prompt that was, that was used by AI. It didn't have any soul. It was very vague. There was nothing that made that essay stand out. And you could tell the one that was written by the person.
I'm back. I'm not sure where I left off. Rebbecca, do you know where I left off?
So Shereem, we're just sharing that kind of example.
So yes, I understand. Yes, gotcha. Thank you very much. College Genie, very good. College Guidance Network has a tool called Ava that's coming out. These are tools that I wholeheartedly endorse as ethical ways to get a thought partner in the process, to offer suggestions. I didn't say for revision, I said for brainstorming, because I do think sometimes it's difficult for students to stare at a blank screen and not know what to write. But if you have someone to literally talk to or type a few, can you give me an idea based upon this is what I'm thinking? You may be able to generate an outline that could be helpful. So I do think that we need to not run away from AI. We need to understand that we should not be submitting something that is created by artificial intelligence, but we need to use it as a thought partner in a way and help us to then generate something that we can customize for ourselves. So students, please hear that when I say that AI it can be your friend. And I want parents and students to know that there's a lot of discussions about how AI is being used in education. And I think the more we lean into it as a way to support our kids and support their essay writing, the better off we'll be. So I apologize for some of the technological difficulties. I believe it was my Wi-Fi at home, but regardless, I hope that you understand that AI ethically used can be advantageous to the essay brainstorming process.
Did you have anything to add, Rebbecca?
You wanted me to continue?
Yeah, and again, Shereem, I would love to hear those resources again, because I think that part of it is really compelling, that it's better to have students brainstorming and using these resources to get going and to unblock themselves, if you will. That's my whole, I think, contribution to this conversation, rather than to be paralyzed by the thought of writing. So really anything to break the ice. I do wonder if you have advice, Shereem, about when is enough, though. When do you say enough is enough and not overuse the platforms?
Again, I think it's tricky. I think we're still in this very embryonic stage with AI and how it's, being used in education. I think the line can be drawn, or when students go over the line, where if I can type into ChatGPT, write an essay about blank for me, and I can type into another tool, Jasper or Anthropologic, another AI tool, and it presents the same thing, then that there's nothing genuine about it. There's nothing authentic about it. So I think students need to be very, very careful that if they generate an essay via AI, colleges will call them to the carpet on it. And don't think colleges, you think, well, they'll never find out, they'll never know. There is something a little bit sterile and distant about AI writing that, again, I think will get better. But to this date, I hope that students want to be at a university in which they can take advantage of educational resources and use their brain. And that starts with the simple application. So thought partner, yes. Essay writer, no. And I think if I can leave it at that, I'm hoping people can get the picture.
So we talked about brainstorming.
Tim, how do you feel?
So we talked about brainstorming. We talked about brainstorming. We talked about getting ideas, AI. So now let's get to writing, Rebbecca. What are some of the things that do we want to give people with takeaways? What are some of the things that they definitely need to take in consideration as they begin this process?
Yeah, and I love this. I'm all about actionable items that we can take and use and employ in how we approach the college essay. Today, tomorrow, we're going to eat the frog. And we've covered, let's reframe the essay itself. Let's try to think about it as positively as possible, as filling in that color about who you are as a student, to all the different ways that you can brainstorm and figure out how best to bring yourself to the table. You've just brainstormed with AI as your thought partner, but then you actually have to write now. And I always say, put pen to paper. And I feel about 1,000,000 years old when I say that. Obviously, we're talking about typing, but it's still a blank page in front of you. And it can be really daunting, as Shereem was saying, to fill that page again with your thoughts, with your emotions, with who you are, all beautiful things. But knowing that there is a college admissions, offer on the line, and that this is an important part of your college admissions process. How do I break this down and make it simple? What are some tips, tricks, and tactics to make this all a little bit more doable? And it's funny, it's the personal essay, but with students who are feeling real paralysis, what I do actually as a tactic is to have them think about this in the third person first. So if you can imagine in your minds again, how much easier is it to talk about a person you love, or your best friend, or grandma, or that person who has been super influential in your life? How much easier is it to talk about them than it is to talk about yourself? Shereem, how much easier is it to talk about how great Tim is versus how great you are? Well, don't think about that.
I met with a student today who, again, is admittedly having trouble writing about herself, and the direction is her writing about her older brother and their relationship and things that she's learned to do and not to do in her own academic life. It is much easier for her to do that right now. And in July, hint, hint, eat the frog, I am encouraging her to get into the rhythm of writing. And if this is what's going to get the pen going or the fingers going, we'll talk about Google Voice in a second, I'm all in. So anytime you write about someone who's influential to me, or write about a time where you saw someone being nice to someone, or random acts of kindness, to write about a third person will get it going. And yes, you can insert I or make it about yourself later, but as you very, very tactfully and necessarily said earlier, Rebbecca, this is an iterative process where there's going to be several iterations, several drafts. It's not going to snap, crackle, pop happen in one day. So allow that time to write in third person as a necessary step to get to the ultimate end goal. I'm pro third person.
So there are all these really interesting studies, and I'm sure we're happy to share them after the fact, on by psychologists at the University of Michigan, about how when we as humans want to distance ourselves emotionally from important decisions or moments of stress, that it's easier for us to feel more objective by referring to ourselves as in the third person. So instead of saying I say Rebbecca makes this decision. And so you can do that in your writing too. Tell your own story, sure, but almost you could invent someone to write about, so that you have just a little bit of distance in your writing. Suddenly, I'm not writing about Rebbecca. I'm writing about my fantastic, bold, and enterprising persona, Millie, instead. And I'm telling my own story, but I'm using sort of this other means of telling the story that helps me feel more objective, less personally, less like the stakes are a little bit lower. And then what's nice is I just switch the pronouns later on and I go back to I, and I really own the story. So it's called Eliism, I figured out, and in reading some of this research, and it's been documented to help people feel more objective about what they're writing. So if you're really stuck, almost pretend like you're telling your story from the point of view of someone else, of somebody else that you love and admire. And then when you go back in this very ongoing process, change it to you, and then really own the story that you have.
Let me just add a point to that, Rebbecca, because I think it's important. I think we all know this woman called Sasha Fierce. Do you know Sasha Fierce? Yeah. Her real name is Beyonce Knowles, but she says very clearly, when I go on stage, I need to become Sasha Fierce.
That's right.
Well, she projects this third person for us, and we need you to, very, very good advice, to project this third person initially as you're creating this person who we all know is Beyonce, but it's really Sasha Fierce, and we can't tell the difference because they are one. So that's great advice.
And it's funny. I always want to test, and practice what I preach. So I wrote a little, almost as if it were a college essay recently, like what I probably should have written as my college essay. And I did it in the third person and about the distance of, 35 years. And it was much easier to talk about myself in that regard. So it's, Sasha Fierce. Own that essay, but maybe just put a spin on it. When you actually do go, you have this story, you know how you're going to write it. You may be writing it in a different person and then changing that voice when it's all done. If you find that structurally you're still struggling, oh my gosh, where do I start? I advise students to just start with some really basic questions like what, how, and why. Where what will be just a presentation of your story, of like some example from your life or your schooling, whatever the start is for the story you want to tell. Present it just by answering the question, what happened? Mm-hmm. You can then advance the narration by answering the question, how? Well, how did it happen? Oh, well, it happened here and on this date and with whom, and this is what we did. And that actually helps you to build the building blocks for that core or center of your narration. And then most importantly, really, is in that last section, answer why. Why is this story important? What's the takeaway? What am I trying to convey to my audience based on what happened, how it happened, most importantly, why? And then ideally, a magic wand gets waved and suddenly you realize you've written the intro, the body, and the conclusion of your essay. Again, with some revision, of course, but if you need really just to get started, focus on those three questions just as a way to, get something on paper and to start organizing your ideas. Tim, I remember from the days when we were reading lots of essays together that if you want to make any part of your essay truly stand out, make sure it's that intro and that conclusion. Capture the reader's attention really early and then leave them with something really concrete, some concrete takeaway about who you are and why this story is worth telling.
Absolutely. And Google Voice, Shereem.
Yeah, and yes, you know me. I like to talk. Tim calls me verbose. We have this great tool that we go into Google Doc and hit voice typing. You can talk to your computer, this, and it will take the dictation down for you to have the beginnings of an essay. Again, it's not going to be structured perfectly. It's not going to look, you're going to mess up and fumble word and say, but it's going to now make the process less scary. You've now gotten something on the page. So whether it's your fingers or your voice, Rebbecca likes to use a pencil. I would if my hand didn't cramp up so much, but I think using voice typing, Google Voice, allows you to see words on paper that you're talking about yourself, or another person can then say, okay, that's enough for today. I'm going to step away, get a good night's sleep, go for a run, and then I'm going to come back to this. And you can edit it. Every great writer will tell you, you never, ever, ever edit your first draft. So get it out your mind, get it on paper. You'll be surprised. I've had earbuds in, talking to my Google Voice, and Tim doesn't know, but I wrote a whole of our book like that. And it's what's important to me is that I'll be able to get it out and then go back to it later and draft and revise. Did you even know that, or am I spilling the beans?
You're spilling the beans. I had no idea, but I was happy it was produced.
That's right. Want me to tell you which chapter it was? Do you want me?
No. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But speaking of a book, one of the things you had a hard time with was letting go. When is it time to let go, Shereem? Like at some point, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to find a word. You're going to find a phrase. You're going to find something you want to redo. At what point in time is it time to say it's time to go and then obviously proofread?
First and foremost, students who are listening, you should not get feedback. All right. In a perfect world, you'd get feedback from your school counselor. You should get feedback from an independent consultant. You can get feedback from an admissions counselor, someone who has experience in this field. You've produced a draft and you want to know, is this quote unquote good or not? I don't look at it like that, but I do believe that we all need editors, suggestions, constructive criticism. Sometimes that's hard for parents and students to do together. So I think it's critical that students get feedback. And for those of you going to say, well, how do I do that? I'm happy to help you after this call. I can share with you ways that my company can help you with that. But getting feedback is key in order to not look at it in a bubble. Once you've gotten that human being feedback about the essay and what it may need in order to improve, Grammarly is your friend. Grammarly can be aggressive. I'm not going to lie to you. But Grammarly.com, I am a fan of because it helps students to identify awkward phrases. It helps to clearly make sure things are punctuated well. So Grammarly is, an automated AI tool to an extent that will help to clean up the writing that you've worked so hard to do. Reading out loud is key. Tim and I read every single word of this entire book out loud because we wanted to make sure that you received it the way we intended it. And sometimes you have to hear it in order to do that. Sensory details, smell it, taste it, touch it, hear it, see it. You want to make sure that it can be a sensory detail and what someone can absorb. So reading out loud is 650 words. It's going to take you a whole 3 minutes. Watch your watch. I'm telling you, it's 3 minutes, no more. Do that so you can say, hey, I don't know that sound. I can correct that. But as Tim mentioned, you have to let it go. It's okay. And I promise you, I don't think, and Tim and Rebbecca, you guys have more experience in admissions than I do. I don't think anyone's ever been rejected because their essay was the worst, unless they cursed or wrote about something very vulgar. If you don't get into college, there are other pieces of the puzzle that may not fit. The applicant rejected, not the person. So think about the application in pieces. There may be something in the line, but if you are happy with how you represented yourself, presented yourself, and then you feel like the essay is grammatically correct, you've taken into account some suggestions for feedback, it's something that's important to you, something that, again, you use this as an opportunity to share, I promise you'll walk away and say, win, lose, or draw, I gave it all I got, and now it's time for me to let go. So letting go, parents, you too, let's not hold on to this too long that you obsess over it and think that it's the make or break to your kid's college application process.
Shereem, you said, mentioned parents. and you always mention proofread, not polish. You know, and
I got a
Rebbecca,
good
we read.
lot of one. I have a good lot of good one-liners that you like, don't I?
I didn't say that. I mentioned one. But Rebbecca, we also read a lot of applications, and we could tell that somebody who was 16, 17, or 18 did not write this essay. So could
Yeah.
y'all briefly talk about the role of parents in this process?
Yeah, it's almost a little bit like AI. I think that parents should be involved as thoughtful guides, but not as the overseers and overlords of this process. This is very much the student's time to shine. It's like the one place in the application where they can speak for themselves in their own words, and they should. And it's beautiful when they do. And I think that yes, this part of the application is very much in the student's control, but it is important that it be in the student's control and that parents act as thoughtful advisors on the front end, maybe in the brainstorming process, and on the back end in terms of, I love this idea of asking people to proofread your essays, not just for mechanics and flow, but like, what am I trying to get across? What is like the characteristic of mine that I'm most trying to get across in this essay? How am I shading in the lines? And can you tell that I'm trying to get this point across? Does that come through? And parents, you can tell that to your student. Oh, you've told this story because you are bold or adventuresome, or you told this story because you're a good friend. You can help your young person gut check that way. And that is really meaningful to me.
I'm taking a note right here. You got great advice, Rebbecca.
Anything to add, Shereem?
No, I think that in order for clarity's sake, I think that, you know, a collective process is a good process. I think too many cooks in the kitchen spoil the broth, right? You don't want to share it with willy-nilly to 5 different people because opinions are like opinions and everybody's got one. So you want to make sure that you're sharing with someone that you respect, that will critique it in a way that's appropriate. Ideally, they have mission experience, but in a way that can ultimately get you to the end result. So sharing good, oversharing like social media, not good.
Yeah.
So the question that I have received all summer as I've done presentations, people have said, what's a memorable essay? You know, what is an essay that stands out? What are colleges actually looking for? And the answer is we're not really looking for anything specific. We are looking for who are you? What are your unique characteristics? What things about you are different than anybody else? Shereem gave the example of snowflake. No snowflake is the same. You are unique. We want to know those characteristics. You know, something else, you know, a lot of students often want to talk about something we already know in the application. For example, I ran cross country and track in high school. So if I turn around and write about how much I love cross country and track, I'm not telling that admission officer or the people reading that application anything new. Now, if you love that and you're passionate about that, be it running, be it band, be it debate, be it, you know, crocheting, whatever it is, then write about it. But in this process, we're trying to get to know everything we can about you to say how you're going to fit into this community. So the more you share, and if you can deviate from just what's on your activities page to get into those individual characteristics that Shereem and Rebbecca have highlighted, that's when you make your application stand out. And so for those of you who may be looking at very selective institutions, I share this with application pools with 40, 50, 60, 100,000 people. You are not going to be the best at anything. It's not going to happen. There's going to be somebody who is better than you at whatever it is that you do. However, you can be the best you. And so as you go into this process, presenting the best you is, you know, one of the primary goals. We want to get a better understanding who you are. A lot of schools are saying, how are you going to fit into this larger community? And so the more you can share about your individual characteristics, those are going to be things that stand out. And so I share all that because people want to know, what's the secret sauce? What is something that I can write about that's going to make my application stand out? And there's nothing that is a topic that you can write about, but as long as you present who you are, share the information, your application is going to stand out and it's going to complement everything else that is within the applications. And so as you think about begin this process, do not begin this process trying to write for a school, an individual, or any particular person. You have to go about this process saying, this is what I want to share with this institution because I think I can bring this to the table. All right. So this is the point where we want to hear from you. So in the chat, if you have questions, please, add them so that our experts can, address them. We want to make sure that we want to, everybody leaves here feeling good about this process. And so anything we can do to add, to help, please feel free to drop the questions in. As people are thinking about questions, is there anything that, as you all were talking that came to mind that you said, I want to make sure that they leave with these gems? I know you got a lot of other one-liners that I like, Shereem. Go ahead, share a couple more one-liners that I like.
You're a factor.
If I there it is. No, I think this has been very thank you so much, Rebbecca, for joining us. Because again, Tim and I have our audience. I've written about essays for the book. I do it in my job, but it's always good to hear another person's opinion and perspective that I agree with.
We just got to the to the good part.
Got to the good part. So just a couple things, we'll be here. Go ahead, Shereem.
Yes, it's important that students write about cultural, religious, racial, political views. I don't want to stifle anyone from writing about their truth, their lived experiences. Now, do I think you need to bash someone else politically, racially, culturally? Absolutely not. But I think if you are an intelligent, college-bound teenager who's evolving into a young adult, this is an opportunity, Rebbecca, thank you, to highlight all the things or a slice of your life that you want to share with others. And do not hide. Do not think that writing about race or religion or culture or politics is going to get you access from that school. You need to be true to yourself and authentic, but never, ever, ever disparaging of someone else. And I think that's important to say, because if you do that, you're being part of a climate of negativity and bias. And I don't believe in that. And I don't think any colleges wants to read an essay that, kind of projects that from someone who isn't on their campus yet.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, just to echo that, I appreciate that so much, because I think at a meta level, I think part of this exercise is not only to see if you can write, but how do you choose to write? What do you choose to write? How do you choose to express what you write? Can you write not only at a mature level, but how thoughtful are you in presenting who you are at that moment? I think it's really wise advice.
So just very quickly, somebody asked, when are college essays for rising seniors posted and announced?
Wonderful. So the common application questions have been available since February, March. So the common applications are 7 questions, 7 prompts that your child gets to choose from and write maximum 650, minimum 250. I've never seen a good essay under 500. All that said, those essays are available for your student to try to brainstorm. That's what we'll be talking about today, primarily a personal essay. Brainstorm, write, get suggestion and feedback. You know the rest. The common application itself, which is the primary tool for students to apply to colleges, actually will roll over and be active. It's going to close on the Saturday, the 27th, and become active on August 1st. So writing on a Google Doc is fine. Don't start working in there. Well, you won't be able to after Saturday until next Thursday, August 1st. It is critical that you start paying attention to when supplemental essays will be released. This year's been a little slow, in my opinion, for colleges to release supplemental essay question prompts, but they will be coming in August. They will be on the Common App. I get alerted to them. There's a website called Prompt Essay, maybe just Prompt. that is a great tool to use to be current with essays. There's other essay companies that will be announcing them. So even if you Google what are the Emory University prompts for 2024-25, it will come up at some point in August. But yes, that's a great question, because time, as we talked about earlier, should be delegated towards the personal essay right now. And then gradually into August, supplemental essays will start coming out. And that's when they will need your attention.
Yeah, so another question, Shereem, somebody asked, you mentioned earlier, document and not create in the essay writing. Can you provide more context for this?
Yes, it's a great question. I want students to tell me about their lives, not try to create something. You know, many years ago, there was an excellent college essay written by a young woman who related many things in her life about Costco's. She and her mother were going to Costco, and she, highlighted the different things that Costco sells and how each of them were applicable to her life. It was creative, it was brilliant, it was abstract, and not everybody can do that. Okay, so yourself, writer, student, or parent, your kid. Just tell us what happened in your life that has, in response to this prompt. You can make it colorful, clever adjectives, but if you try to create something that is abstract and Costco-esque, it will be, no one's going to read it. No one wants to kind of take a deep dive into your essay. It's very, very difficult. So document versus create, meaning just write about what happened and then customize it, make it pretty with all the little sexy details, but don't try to create something too abstract, because the person on the other end may not be an abstract reader. They may not enjoy reading that stuff. They just want to learn about you. They don't want to know how seashells, different kind of seashells relate to your life as you, are in Fiji. Not a good look.
So Rebbecca, Michaela, who's in North Carolina, Greensboro, my dad lives in Greensboro, asked, she's a senior, any suggestions for writer's block?
Yeah, and this is one of it's like sort of terrible that this is one of my favorite topics, because there's some suffering, but I think that I very much love writing. I'm a voracious reader. I love writing. I hope to instill that in my daughter through and through, but I did not start as a very strong, competent reader or writer, and so it's come with a lot of struggle. So my heart really goes out to people who are experiencing this, this writer's block. And I think there's been some really great suggestions tonight. Just try to keep it very simple. Tell us your story. Remember that this is about you and no one else in the room or in the applicant pool. This is about you. I love it. Go for a walk. Go for a walk and talk into your phone, and hopefully it transcribes your voice and send it to your email. And then you have something on, on paper. It's amazing the mind body benefits of walking and just being able to think clearly. If that is your jam, go out, walk, document some of your ideas. And then I love this idea of Google Voice. Talking to, so we admissions counselors, we are storytellers. We want to hear a story, and how our stories most commonly transmitted throughout the millennia of human history has been orally. So just talk, get it out, refine it later. You'll get there.
And so Shelley asked what characteristics are admission officers looking for to determine fit. What I'll share is we have very diverse communities. And so we are looking for individuals who, are going to add something, whatever unique characteristics they have. There's this misconception that college universities want well-rounded students. Yes, we want well-rounded students, but we also want very pointy students. I am interested in this. I love this. I'm going to bring this energy to your campus. That's fine as well. So I don't want anybody to think that there are individual characteristics we're looking for, but whatever you present, whatever you can bring, there's going to be somebody on that campus that you're going to add, be it the classroom, be it activities, be it, starting a club or organization. These are things that are going to be added to the community. So, there's no one characteristic we're looking for. We're looking for people who are going to add to the community that we have. One more question. From your experience, are there any topics or formulas that are overly common for applicants? If so, what are there? That's loaded, but I'm gonna let y'all jump in there.
Oh no.
Failure. I recommend that students avoid prompt number 1 and number 2 and number 7 on the Common App. Why? Prompt number 1 is tell us something that your application would be incomplete without. It's not that I don't want to see what your application would be incomplete, but because it's the first question, so many kids do it. And the Common application actually had a pie chart a few years ago, which showed that like overwhelmingly, it was like 63% of the applicants chose question number 1. And that can be somewhat drudgery for admissions officers. Question number 2 is about tell us about a time that you faced a challenge and you failed and how did you overcome it? I think while it's a great concept, what it asks students then take that as something has to happen bad in my life that I overcame and that'll make me impressive. No, celebrate your life. You're alive. And you have a chance to apply to college. And yes, I'm not trying to say everything in your life has been rosy and perfect, but if you focus on your failures or your challenges, which are valid, you're not celebrating other elements that people want to hear about. Number 4 is a question about gratitude. Number 3 is a question about sometime that you had to confront someone you had a different opinion against, and how did you kind of respond to it when someone number 6 about what could you get lost in doing, a hobby or a habit that you get lost in with no recognition of time. There are opportunities, great word, Rebbecca, and I use it in my essay course too, that students need to use other than the negative or other than, like Tim said, the obvious. If there's something that's already written in your activity section, it doesn't need to be amplified in your personal essay, because I'm sure there's other things that you could write about.
I totally agree. And if I have a second to weigh in, I'll just say I always found that there wasn't one theme, but I tended to gravitate more towards the essays that were striving to put an impression upon the reader than trying to impress the reader. You can tell a little bit when the college is too much in the applicant's head and they're writing just to impress us about how many recitals they've done, or the accumulation of life events. I think if you're really authentic and, again, trying to leave an impression on someone in that you're meeting them, you're meeting the writer for the first time and presenting themselves to you, that authenticity, no matter the story you're telling, every story has been told in some way, really. But what hasn't been told is your story. So just tell us about you.
And how valuable is community service to reference in your essay, Shereem?
Civic engagement. No, community service is still an important element of society. I want people to be givers, not takers. So if you're giving of your time and you choose to share, that is something that's important to you. It's an event that you want to share. Somehow you're becoming altruistic in many ways. That's a plus. I don't want you to feel like you writing about your community service project is going to impress colleges that get a lot of essays about that. And I don't know how much they're learning about you versus they're learning about your experience from that project. Again, it's a loaded thing. I don't want anyone to not do community service, but how valuable is community service reference in your essay? I'm going to say it's probably not as valuable as an adult writing about it in one of their recommendations, the listing on your resume / activities, writing about it in a supplemental essay. I think it'd have a little bit more meat, but I don't want kids to get stuck with, I'm going to write about my community service project, unless it's something that they've had a lot of continuity with over 4 years of high school. So again, it's not a one size fits all response, but I do want you to know that I think there's other ways to approach it.
Well, I want to thank you both for your time and your expertise. And you can see on the screen, if you want to follow up with either Rebbecca or Shereem, both of their emails are there. They both have other resources to support you in the writing process if you want to contact them, and they obviously can share with you more about that. I would encourage you to reach out to them, as they are great resources. I want to thank our host, is our sponsor for the night, the Center for Outreach, Research and Engagement at Georgia State University. Dr. Anya Payne helped support this event, along with understanding the choices. But Shereem and Rebbecca were gracious to their time. We want to continue to have great talent have free provide free information to you. So the QR code is if you found this useful and you want to give to help continue to support programming like this, you can. Finally, I will share next month on August the 26th at 7 p.m. we have Money Monday, in which we're going to have two great financial aid advisors. We're going to talk about financial aid. We're going to talk about all the changes in FAFSA, going to talk about scholarships and give you that information. So we want to continue to narrow the information gap. Make sure this information is available to everybody. So tell a friend, contact Shereem, contact Rebbecca about the great services they have that they're offering students and families. And we appreciate your time, and have a great night, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night, everyone. Thank you. Good luck.